Welcome, everyone. This is a re-recording of the morning briefing we provided at 9:15 on February 16th. Some of the highlights, the mornings will probably be different by the time this gets released, but we had technical issues, and I'm sorry. The best way we could get it recorded was just do it again. This map is the active weather hazards we have outgoing, the watches and warnings as of 8 a.m. this morning. We have a big area of fire weather watches. This is the tan color. The pink is red flag warnings, and the red here was red flag warnings and high wind watches. So you can see pretty active across the whole region, especially in our neck of the woods, though. We have a lot going on, mainly tied to the winds and the fire threat. We are expecting a significant fire danger tomorrow. This pink purplish area here, it's called extremely critical. The Storm Prediction Center, when they do their fire weather outlooks, they very rarely use these. This is the first one we've had since 2022. So it definitely has our attention that this could be a potentially dangerous fire weather day tomorrow. We are expecting sustained winds of the 35 to almost 50 miles per hour range. Some areas are going to see gusts up to 65. Humidities are going to fall at least to low teens, if not into the single digits. It's going to be very dry. Highs are going to be near record values for this time of year. And then there will be some wind shifting. It's originally going to be southwest, then it'll go to the west, and then maybe even a little bit north of west by the late afternoon. And the reason I think this purple area here is where it's at right now, and not all the way down to like Tribune, is I know there's some concerns about the rainfall we had on Saturday that it might inhibit really bad fire danger. We're not totally convinced that's going to be the case because all of our fuels out here are essentially grasses. They don't take long to dry out. We've had a couple of days of sunshine and drier conditions. So our gut feeling is this enhanced fire danger, this extremely critical, is really going to be across, I'd say east to west this area, but then take it south down to Tribune is probably what it's going to end up being. So we may start messaging a little more particularly dangerous fire weather conditions, just because of the rarity of these things coming together. High winds, this was the watch as of this morning. I'm sure by the time you receive this, we'll have parts of it upgraded to a warning. Wind gusts up to 65 miles per hour possible, especially in this area, probably I'd say from Flagler, Burlington, down to Leota, and maybe to a lesser degree as far north as Yuma. We are concerned that it's not going to be this consistent gust into 60, 70 like we had in recent events. It's going to be more sporadic. But even when the lulls come, it's going to still be 30 to 40 miles per hour gusting 50. So don't let the lulls make you think it's not going to be windy regardless. And then the potential for the strongest winds are actually right in the late morning or early afternoon when the inversion breaks and we start mixing the stronger winds down. That will probably be the time where winds are the strongest, and then as it gets more mixing, that's when it gets more sporadic throughout the rest of the day. These are our wind scenarios. The image on the left is a 10% chance that the wind gusts will exceed this. The image on the right is a 10% chance that the wind gusts will not exceed that. So even on the best case scenario, if the system just doesn't come together like we think it is, and it doesn't deepen, we're still looking at 40 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts tomorrow. 60 mile an hour wind gusts would be more in eastern Colorado, but we'd still have 40 mile an hour wind gusts everywhere. So the fire danger would remain very high, if not extreme. We would still need to have red flag warnings given how dry it's going to be. The high end is probably more concerning. You can see Goodland's at 60 miles per hour. Burlington 72, Yuma 70. And I really think as a system, if it develops like we think it's going to, that this area of really strong winds will probably expand to the south, down as far south as Leota and Tribune. So they might be in the 60 to 70 range too when it's all said and done. These winds combined with the dryness and stuff is why we're so concerned about the fire danger, that if we get a fire started, it's going to spread very quickly and probably not be able to control it. The wind timing, while we think the winds are going to be somewhat sporadic on the high-end gusts, we're pretty confident with how it's going to pick up. Winds will pick up from west to east, and that's how we have the towns labeled this way as well. They start in the west and go to east. And you can kind of see as you go to the right, the further down the list you get, the further east you get, the later and later in the day the peak winds come up. So, Kit Carson, Burlington, Goodland, we're going to have probably a pretty long period of strong winds, 5, 6, 7 hours of really strong winds. Further east you get, it might just be a couple hour window where we start gusting near 60. But you'll still definitely get in there. It's just a matter of duration the further east you get. And we can't have strong winds this time of year with as dry as it's been and not have blowing dust. Thankfully, the pattern looks like it's going to be more of a kind of a plume event, which means there'll be a lot of individual plumes coming off of fields and other sources like that, but not necessarily one big wall of dust that's moving along an area. So that's good and kind of bad. The good news is that means we're not going to have a big wall that just tracks down I-70 or something like that. That looks very unlikely, less than a 15% chance that would occur. And the bad thing is, if it's just individual plumes, they're very hard to tell you where they're going to be prior to us picking them up on satellite or on radar or with reports. And there's one exception to that. That's up in Yuma County. I'm going to talk about that next. But if we do get this dust, the peak time for that's going to be 10 a.m. to 1. After that, the atmosphere should mix out deep enough where there will be blowing dust. And if you're right next to a plume source, it's going to be bad conditions. But the farther away you get, it'll get lofted more and more in the air, and it'll turn more to just kind of hazy, dirty, poor air quality kind of problem. But that being said, if you're traveling somewhere and one of these plumes forms right next to the road or within a mile of it, you probably have little very localized brownouts there. I mentioned Yuma County was a little bit different with the dust threat, and this is why. I know we have a couple burn scars from some of the bigger fires that happened in December, but the biggest by far is this one near Hartstrong. This is called the Sentinel satellite imagery. It's very high resolution stuff. This is as of February 8th, so within the last week. The burn scar that's being pointed to here, you can see this is all sand. And if you go back before the fire happened, this didn't look like this at all. It looked like everywhere else. So this is a good indication that a lot of the ground cover was burned away. And obviously this time of year, it's probably not growing back. So we have this area just wide open of sand and dirt. And now we put these winds over it, and we're very confident that's going to start blowing. Again, how far away it is from the source region before the visibilities aren't bad, and it's more of just an air quality nuisance, depends on how deeply the atmosphere is mixed. In the morning, I imagine when the winds start picking up, that can extend from that plume probably 5-10 miles downwind. It'd still be pretty nasty. And as the afternoon goes on, that'll probably shorten to maybe a mile or two. And then this is poor air quality after that. Ray, I have that on this map because it's kind of in an awkward position where it's not due west of this scar per se, but if there's any southerly component, it's going to bring that dust up to Ray. And so they might have several hours where they're not getting brownout conditions per se, but they might be getting into this where the air quality is really bad and just stays really bad most of the day. So if you have people that you're caring for or under your supervision that are very sensitive to bad air quality, they have lung issues, might want to start making some plans to help them out, give them some mitigation techniques, some masks or something, because it does look like Ray and the area south of Ray is probably going to have exceptionally bad air quality just because of that burn scar blowing dust at them all day. And the images here, the color contours, are just our rough approximation of where it would be the worst. So the orange would be the worst, and the yellow would be impacted. And we do have another fire weather threat again on Wednesday, although thankfully not nearly as strong as it will be on Tuesday. Especially in eastern Colorado there, we're going to have a situation where we're gusting up to 45 miles per hour. Humidities are going to be about 15%. And the real threat here, I think, is not so much that we haven't had conditions like that. Those aren't all that uncommon. But the fact that if there's any fires that formed the day before that are still smoldering or ongoing, it turns it right back into a very favorable situation for it to keep spreading or reignite and take off again. So be very cautious if there's any fires. We're going to have to monitor that really closely on Wednesday because there's going to be a window again where they could spread rapidly. Here's our confidence for the various elements. I'm very confident that we're going to see critical fire weather conditions tomorrow on Tuesday. given those thresholds are 15% humidity, dry fuels, and wind gusts at least 25, we're going to see that very easily. And we're, again, talking very high-end kind of fire weather threat with the winds very strong. I believe our grassland fire danger thing, or grassland fire danger index we use is pegged out at the max for Tuesday across much of the area. So definitely a high-end threat for fire weather tomorrow. We're very confident that 50-mile-plus winds will occur. I think that's a pretty safe bet. We'll at least get a few gusts of that, even as far east as Hill City. The 60-mile-an-hour threat is still pretty high, maybe less so just because of the sporadic nature, that maybe not every location will quite see that level of gust of the 60 to 70-mile-an-hour range, but it'll be close. So definitely going to be a windy day tomorrow. And the blowing dust threat, that is kind of tied to what type of blowing dust event we're expecting. It's going to be a plume-based one, so it's really going to depend on where the plumes actually form. So that's what kind of lowers confidence in location. Although the only place we're really confident is downwind of that fire scar near Hartstrong. That's definitely going to be blowing dust there. I don't see any way that we could avoid at least a plume of dust forming in that area. Everywhere else, like I said, it might be more just air quality and nuisance stuff. But again, if one of these plumes forms just next to a roadway you're on, you're going to have at least a narrow strip of there where the conditions are bad. And that's the recording we did. I unfortunately didn't save the questions you guys asked me during the original one, so I'm going to have to not be able to put those in here. Just remember tomorrow, Tuesday, potentially dangerous fire weather situation is unfolding here. If everything comes together just right, it could be exceptionally bad, where fires would basically be impossible to control. The wind gusts exceeding 55 miles per hour are really likely. We could quibble a little bit on the high end. What's the high end gust going to be? But I'm pretty safe to say we're at least going to see that tomorrow. And then the blowing dust plumes. If you have any other questions for us, we will be here at the office. We will stay open. We're not doing our 3-hour closing tonight. So if you have any questions, we'll have someone here staffed the entire time through this event. Look forward to supporting you all any way we can. And if you need any more information, please don't hesitate to reach out and talk to us. We'll be happy to help. Thank you and good luck. Bye.